operate in truth, right? Operate in truth. Tell the truth.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gator Truth Florida Football Podcast. I'm Daniel, and on this episode, we're going to take a look at the 2024 Orange and Blue game, and I'll break down some of my favorite parts about it. It really is a spring game, so I don't take a whole lot, but there are good things, as we talked about, that you can tell are good just from a scrimmage and not necessarily play into strength of opponent or other things that come from spring games and that you'd normally toss a grain of salt with that said, I understand that the preview episode had a few audio issues. Don't worry, I'm sure you can hear it's been fixed. And then also I'd like to thank you for listening and for everyone who watched on YouTube. It was the single highest viewer count that any of our episodes have had on YouTube. So thank you for that. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing, and hopefully you can help us continue to grow. With that said, let's go ahead, let's get into it. Those that have been around a while, you know that in general, my slides when we go before game, I'm going to tell you here's what I want to see. And then they'll be generally the same after the game, maybe a few changes just to say, hey, did we see this or how did this work out? And so, of course, first we got to start off with the impact of Russ Callaway. I talked about before the game that, the promotion of Russ Callaway from tight end coach to now being co offensive coordinator could pay dividends. And there had been some great quotes about how creative he was. And I actually got to ask some of the players when during the Florida Victorious meet and greet if, he really was as creative as some of the quotes had said. And they said yes, and said that they do believe we will be surprised in the fall. So I cannot wait to see that. And we did see some of that creativity come forward in the spring game. Of course, you don't want to show too much in a spring game, so I can't tell is it we didn't see quite as much. We did see some great things, but we didn't see too many things that were too crazy. And some of that could be by design. Some of that could be, okay, we're going to put more in fall install, but we definitely don't want to show our full hand right now. Either way, one thing that I would say that definitely sticks out to me is the um, complete bomb near the end of the first half to Trey Wilson, who then scores that touchdown. A you know, big play in the game. And one thing I liked is the concept on the left side. You had what I would say is a pseudo smash concept, and a smash is usually a hitch or a button or a hook route, by the outside receiver who sits down in front, causing the corner to come up, and then you throw in a corner route, which is when the slot receiver or maybe even a tight end sometimes will run down past them and run towards the corner and come on top. And usually what has to happen for that is since the corner on the outside guy is forced down, now you've got a little bit of throw window unless the safety comes over. Well, on this particular play, the outside guy ran an out route, but still same thought of the corner has to still play down on the receiver while the inside slot ran that corner route, which did cause the safety on the left hand of the formation, if you're on the offense looking the left hand safety, to then come down on that route to prevent a big throw on the corner route. Well, in doing so, it cleared the left side of the field. Eugene Wilson he's in the slot on the right side. Looks like he's about to run a corner route and like we're running a double smash concept, except for as he starts that corner and takes a few steps in, he then cuts back towards a post route on what they call a corner post, but just those few steps in gets the safety off balance and then leaves them wide open. It was a brilliantly drawn up play because due to the concepts written on the left side of the field, that or that corner post means there's no safety to protect him once he gets that right side safety completely turned around. Brilliantly designed play for what many felt was the highlight of the game, that long touchdown pass to Wilson. And I did want to say, hey, there was a great design. And if you're curious to what a corner route, again, it's kind of like a post route, but you're running kind of towards the corner of the sideline. A good example is one thing we saw, and we'll talk about this a little bit more as we go down. Taylor Spirito had a great catch on the home sideline, and essentially, although he ran across the formation on a crossing route, where he caught the ball and where it was thrown in front of him is how you'd want to see a corner route thrown. It's just if he started from the slot on that side instead of on the other side of the formation. But again, just where he caught it, how you'd want to throw it is what you'd see on a corner route if you're trying to picture that and aren't familiar with routes. With that said, lots of good things to see, hints at things from Callaway. We did see some more return of the run pass option, the RPO, which I think will be big. And of course, part of that is due to freshman DJ Lagway's athletic ability. Before we get to all of my thoughts on Lagway, I do want to address O line play. I thought overall was all right. I mean, for a bunch of guys that haven't really played much together, we have transfers on the line. Some of our starters, like Austin Barber, unfortunately did not get to play due to injury. I'm not going to say they're dominant. I'm not going to say they're bad, but overall, it wasn't a frustrating performance for me. There are a few times where we did see a good move for guys to get into the backfield, talked about in the preview episode. Sometimes you just see a good move. I didn't want to see, guys just getting bullied back or guys, totally whiffing. Sometimes guys got in the backfield, but it was because of great plays by the D lineman. Again, you want to see better from your offensive lineman, but at least it wasn't some of the hijinks that we've seen in the past. As far as wide receivers stepping up, hey, Spirito got a great touchdown pass, got that great catch on the sideline. Marcus Burke had two excellent catches. One was a diving catch on what is the away sideline, and then followed up with a deep catch a little bit later on where the ball fell pretty much to his ankles. He picks it up almost on the grass, makes a good catch, good run. If he had been able to catch it up by his chest, chances are it's a touchdown, but still a great catch. And hopefully that's a sign that this is a guy who can at least give us some decent contributions going forward. Also, want to shout out Aiden Mazzell. Great catch on that touchdown, getting right into the middle of three defenders, and great ball placement by Lagway to hit him in that situation. With that said, also, I want to say that, hey, wide receivers, they did step up. And then the guy who I really thought stepped up the most is Baugh. Baugh at running back looked phenomenal. And when I talk about things that look great in this spring game, and I've got a picture of Baugh here that's kind of made its rounds on social media. Um, so of course I put in the slide. Anyways, things that you can see that aren't necessarily just spring game or just because you're playing, maybe not the top defense because Florida played ones versus ones, twos v twos, is this guy showed patience and he showed vision. There's a few times where it looked like the hole he was supposed to go to and was a little bit full, and he found a way to run out the other side of the offensive line and get a ton of yards. Great day by him. I know he's made lots of people happy thinking, hey, here's a guy who may earn time. And that's one thing I want to see who could be number two. And I really think Bob made a great statement for number two. And of course, we had number 24 as well, making some great runs. I think as far as position groups after Saturday, I think running back is the one I feel best about. as far as skill position players outside of the quarterback position. And I bring up the quarterback position because DJ Lagway was my player to watch and see what happens. There were some throws early that were questionable. He did have a pick. I think some of that is just defense knowing the scheme and knowing that on a lot of third downs, we like to run all, hitches or hooks or buttons. And of course, we did it on third down. And Manny Nunnery probably knowing, hey, this is what their tendency is. Jump the route. Great interception by him. But got to be a little bit better for DJ Lagway. With that said, he's only been on campus 3.5 months. Now let's get to the good things. Again, guy found room to run. Guy was a willing runner. He also threw some excellent passes like the spear toe catch on the sideline I was talking about with here's where you want to throw a corner. I mean, hitting a guy in stride with their arms outstretched, could not ask for better. The ball placement on the touchdown to Menzel, also amazing. And the ball placement on the throw for the touchdown to Spirito later. Again, great ball placement. Guy didn't have to really try hard or dive. And ball placement, again, is not something that you can say, well, okay, it was, you're playing the second string defense. No, ball placement is ball placement. Some people can't do that well on air. So it was very impressive seeing that from him. And I can only imagine how much better he's going to be as he gets more experience in the system, as he gets more accustomed to the speed of the college game and more chemistry with his receivers, with his teammates, with his tight ends. So definitely looking forward to that. But the offense overall last year, I was quite honest about made me nervous moving forward. I'm a little less nervous now, not just because of some of the things we saw, but also again talking to some players at the meet and greet afterwards, where they said they thought we'd be surprised in the fall because of the creativity of Russ Callaway and not just a, hey, we're going to surprise people because we're better this year, but here's a reason why. So I am looking forward to hopefully seeing that take place. And for the defense, as far the first key I had was tackling. And to be honest, I thought we tackled well. Obviously, there are times we missed, and sometimes it was, you know, Bob making a great move, or, you know, sometimes we did miss something. But overall, tackling looked a lot better than it's been. And so I've got to give some credit to the defensive staff for getting probably one of the worst aspects of the defense for the last 4 seasons, yeah, since 2020, and that's the tackling, getting that looking quite a bit better, and hopefully it continues to grow, and it is a strength of this defense because, like we talked in the preview, if we do some tackling, maybe these records the last 2 years, well, not maybe, these for sure, the records the past 2 years are different because we win the Arkansas game if we get Jefferson to the ground on fourth down. The other example I gave the other day was FSU in 2022. Both times, fourth downs or third downs, I guess. You take down Travis in the backfield. They're kicking field goals. I think one of them may have taken them out of field goal range, and that changes that game. This much different than them getting 14 points. They may only get 3 or less points. And of course, that's the difference in that game. So it is good to see the tackling step up. Defensive line pressure, something else I wanted to see. And I was happy to see it, to be honest. There are times we got through. A great highlight that's been passed around is true freshman. Oh, man. Anyways, LJ McCray. Don't ask me why I blanked. I do apologize. But LJ McCray blowing up the line, getting a tackle in the backfield. And that's what you want to see from these young guys. And then also knowing that the defensive line, I thought they did fine. I mean, they weren't dominant, but there are reasons for that. But also, again, knowing guys like Jack Pyburn is out with injury, Justice Boone out with injury. So, some guys who can come in and step up, it was good seeing reps for these guys and also not seeing them. And again, I'm hoping this is not an indictment on our offensive line, but not seeing them really getting pushed around at will. So I will take, at least for a spring game, what I saw. Again, a lot of the spring game I do take with a grain of salt, because you can have times like last season spring game where people were swearing our defense was going to be dominant, and it ended up not being so. And that's why I think generally keeping the perspective of it's a spring game is important. That's not being negative. That's just not setting yourself up for unrealistic expectations. And then moving to the next level of the defense, the linebackers. We saw young linebackers like Pup Howard coming in, playing well. Definitely great for him. Last year, went to South Carolina out of high school, transferred to us this year, played very well as did several other young linebackers. And I'm hoping that continues the trend. And one good thing is, again, speaking of injuries being out, not that you want guys being injured, but Shamar James not really playing much. That allows more reps. That allows more, a better learning curve for some of these guys coming into the system to learn and getting the experience in the snaps of the spring game to hopefully bring up the floor of what these linebackers can be. Overall, moving to the back end, the coverage. I thought the coverage generally was really good. Some of that at times could be some of the old passing concepts that we're familiar with. Again, I talked about how Manny Nunnery, a linebacker, made an interception on an all hitch play. So there are times that I think maybe our tendencies did help the coverage, but there was also just some good tight coverage. Were there some, busts, like, for example, that Trey Wilson touchdown? Again, I don't think that was a bust. I think that was a great play, but there were times like that where we're like, okay, things happen with the back end, but then we saw plenty of great things. We saw Sharif Denson, who is pictured getting his interception on Graham Mertz in the slide. And also, you see, I've got Manny Nunnery. If you're watching on YouTube, got a picture of him after his interception. Um, Anyways, we also saw a great play by transfer Turner, Asa Turner, from coming to us from Washington. Great diving play to break up a pass. That's the stuff you want to see, guys moving in on the ball, breaking up passes, causing, small windows. And sometimes our quarterbacks put the ball where only the receivers could get it, and they caught it. Again, I'll go back to that big spear toe catch on the sidelines, but at least the throws had to be closer to perfect. There's a lot smaller windows for the catches to be made. And I do think that speaks volumes to this defensive back room getting better, both with transfers, both with guys here developing, and for new DB coach Will Harris. Finally, my player to watch was DJ Douglas. I didn't really see him stand out as, like we saw Boss stand up on offense, saw a great offensive game from DJ Lagway. I didn't necessarily see that from Douglas, and that's not a knock on him, but overall, thought he played well. But like I said in the preview, if you didn't listen to the preview or if you haven't seen, he's a guy whose story I love. And I made sure to tell him that during the Florida Victorious autograph signing. And he confirmed it. Yes, he started as a walk-on at Alabama, went to Tulane, and now is an SEC scholarship athlete at the University of Florida. And again, that just desire to get better and earn your spot, that's a chip on someone's shoulder and a work ethic that you cannot teach. And I cannot be prouder that we have a guy like that representing the orange and the blue. So, again, things that I'm really happy to see. And I'm hoping he helps bring a depth to this safety room that we've not really had in a few years. And just, again, talking about rising the floor being, the worst that we're going to do. I think that we've seen some of that. Again, keeping in the perspective that it is a spring game, but there are things like having tight windows, the first team defense, doing that to the first team offense, seeing the interceptions. We got 2 in the game. Last year, we only had 3 all season. There are things that you can see, regardless of the spring game or not, and it does make me feel better. Of course, as I put on the thumbnail, it was a good day. And it was a good day, not just because it was fun, perfect weather for Gator football, or that, is a more enjoyable orange and blue game than last year, but also for everything around it. A big Gator sports weekend where fans could take in, tennis right before the game. They could take in baseball afterwards, all sorts of things going on throughout the weekend. And that's just really cool. Not to mention everything else going on. The big Florida, every, fan fest, I guess you could call it, on the North Lawn. All the great things. And of course, we will get to the biggest things that were going on throughout the weekend I found were really cool in just a moment. But before we do, let's go ahead and just shout out to a few people for us. And the first group I want to shout out is the College Huddle. College Huddle is the largest independent fan podcast community. I am Florida's official well, I shouldn't say official, but I am the representative for the Florida Gators for the College Huddle. You can check them out, thecollegehuddle.com. You can find us on YouTube. I do host a series that has just started called Why We Huddle, where we take a look at the various podcasters who make up the College Huddle and explore their fandom for their team, their fan podcasts. First episode released last week, taking a look at the Washington Huskies. Coming up this week is the FIU Panthers. And then next week, I do believe it'll be the K-State Wildcats and so many more to come. But it is awesome. Check out the College Huddle. Check out all sorts of things if you want to sort of scout upcoming opponents, or maybe there's a team you're like, hey, I just want to check out what that's about. Check out the College Huddle and some of their fan podcasts because you can learn a lot. And it's always fun to see the reactions from rivals if things go well, and especially when they don't. And then also, I want to give a shout out to my friends at Alvarez Lawn Company. If you're in Central Florida, have any lawn projects that you would like coming up, or you're like, hey, it's way too hot. I don't want to deal with doing this lawn project myself, or I don't want to take care of my lawn during the summer. Who can I have do it for me? If you're in the Central Florida area, give my friends at Alvarez Lawn Company a call. You can call or text them for a free quote at 407-490-2617. Tell them that Daniel from the Gator Truth Florida Football Podcast sent you. Alvarez Lawn Company, building plans that work for you. And then finally, I do want to shout out Florida Victorious for their fan weekend this weekend. Lots of cool things happened. They did have meet and greets with the men's basketball team, with the women's basketball team, and all sorts of prizes and other things going on before the game at the Fan Fest in the North Lawn. I did get to meet several Gator players, which was great, including Walter Clayton, who, of course, had that excellent shot against Colorado and really played his heart out. And then after the game, they did have all the Gator players, offense, defense, special teams, had tables lined up on each sideline where you could go and meet your favorite Gator players, get pictures, get their autographs. I got the autographs of the entire defense, special teams, and wide receivers and tight end room. It was awesome. I've got a few pictures of me and my wife with Clayton, my brother, his son with Desmond Watson, and I'll say my brother and I both said we wish this was around when we were kids because it would have been awesome meeting, you know, the like 96 championship team, meeting all sorts of great teams. But unfortunately, wasn't there. But now with Florida Victorious, it is. Be sure to check out Florida Victorious and help support Florida's NIL initiative to help bring the best talent to the Florida Gators. Well, with that said, I understand last time I did this, it didn't fully go through. So we will make sure that happens this time. Thank you, everyone, for listening. And as always, go Gators.